wondering how I got into this mix.
Yeah, when I get
I voted for you in 2004.
Thank you, man.
First
Appreciate it very much. What?
First and only time I voted.
That's really nice of you, but you got to vote. We need you.
Yeah, it was disturbing to later find out that you were George Bush's cousin, though. That kind of threw me off.
I don't think I really am.
Is that just a rumor floating around?
I think that's just BS.
Hey,
I have no idea how I'm connected to him.
Because I really did believe in you. Do you have any rethinking thoughts on funding of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Syria? Would you do that again, or would you support that again? Like,
doing what?
Supporting funding rebels in Syria. Would you support that again?
The rebels? No.
Well, Al-Qaeda.
No.
ISIS,
Well, we didn't support Al-Qaeda.
Well, Al-Nusra Front, that's Wahhabists, Al-Qaeda, you know, it's connected. They're all connected to the same
They were,
Wahhabists.
and I think our guys made a real mistake. I think the agency played a bad process with them, is what happened.
Do you think funding and supporting Saudi Arabia ties into that? I mean, like,
that's tied into it.
You have a big connection with Israel and Saudi Arabia. Nobody questions that, but that leads to all sorts of terrorist actions. And
you're absolutely on target. It's the problem.
Well, hopefully you can put some better thoughts out there.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not. Are you taping that? What is it?
It's my microphone.
What? It's what? My microphone. Yeah, but let me just say to you, I think that we need to be engaged in the region. And, yeah. Well, no.
Sorry. No, I know, but there's a lot of people here.
All right, so you just saw my quick questioning confrontation with John Kerry. Before we get into Syria, I just want to fact check John Kerry real quick. He told me it's BS that him and Bush are cousins, but let's look at this report from the Associated Press from 2004, Bush versus Kerry. They're distant cousins. And yes, it goes in there saying how they're 16th cousins 3 times removed and how different people have looked into their family history. You can see here's their family tree and see their common ancestors and where they separate. And you can see this little article here goes a little bit further into detail. Says that, in fact, Dick Cheney, Bush's vice president, was also cousin to Obama, and Cheney was Mr. Bush's 11th cousin, and on. You can see Bush is also related to Princess Diana and Hugh Hefner and a number of people. And really this is because if you know anything about these elitists and a lot of the high political class, they inbreed. They marry within their little circuits so they can keep their bloodlines pure, as they like to think. And one other thing that just ties these two together is that both Bush and Kerry were members of the secretive Skull and Bones Society from Yale University. You guys may remember this clip when somebody actually questioned Kerry about this.
Watch this.
Were you a member of Skull and Bones in college and Bush? Were you in the same secret society?
That's all right. Let me answer his question.
Excuse me, what are you asking for? Whoa. Is anybody watching this? I'm not
And right there you can see people cheering as they arrest a man just for questioning John Kerry about his connection to Skull and Bones. Now let's get to Syria here. Now, in that, I know that last minute of the last 30 seconds of the video, it was difficult to hear what I was saying. I tried to annotate it with some text that I could remember. But what I was mentioning to John Kerry is this. When he says that they were not funding Al-Qaeda or ISIS, they were funding Al-Nusra Front and various rebel groups in in Syria. And when I mentioned the leaked conversation at the United Nations, this is what I was discussing. This was revealed in 2016 and reported right here, as you can see, by the New York Times. Of course, the New York Times, when you actually look into what they report here, they sort of do a bad job of actually looking into this, and they don't talk about any of the parts of Kerry's conversation that actually discuss him funneling weapons into Syria and helping out the quote-unquote rebels. Now, the interesting thing right here is you can actually see this original article from CNN, which was the first place that this was reported, and the audio has since been scrubbed on here. It says, editors note CNN has taken down the audio recording at the request of some of the participants out of concern for their safety, or perhaps they don't want people checking too much into that and seeing what John Kerry was up to. So let's actually see what this talks about. You can I'll post a link here from 21st Century Wire where you can see that Kerry admits that Russia was actually invited in legally into Syria while the U.S. was not, because the U.S. has been telling people this is just some random civil war taking place in Syria, and the good old U.S. just wants to come in and help out the rebels and overthrow the bad guy Assad. However, when we actually look at the clip here, let's take a look at this second right here, you can actually hear them talking about funneling weapons in there.
Well, let me ask you, Michael. I mean, I think we've been putting an extraordinary amount of arms in, haven't we?
Yeah, and I have to say, as you said, it's a double-edged sword.
So you said there, we've been putting an extraordinary amount of arms, weapons into the region, and I will just give you the link to this. You can go back and look for yourself. I want to touch on one other second here in the conversation where he talks about Russia coming in because Russia didn't want ISIS to become the government, and so they actually pushed back against the U.S. and ISIS.
It's coming in, huge amount of money.
But pumping weapons in causes someone else to pump more weapons in, and you end up with a level.
I mean, the reason Russia came in is because ISIL was getting stronger. Daesh was threatening the possibility of going to Damascus and so forth. And that's why Russia came in, because they didn't want a Daesh government.
So they didn't want a Daesh government. They didn't want an ISIS government. So they came in to stop what the U.S. couldn't do. And I did mention this to John Kerry as well, that his buddy John McCain, recently deceased, now celebrated hero, also made a secret trip to Syria to help out those so-called rebels.
Well, it was actually a very interesting trip. He came, the senator met with a total of about 18 commanders from the Free Syria Army under the supreme command of General Idris.
And there you have it, folks. John Kerry himself lying to me on camera, saying that he thinks it's BS that him and Bush are connected. And then, of course, just sort of downplaying any discussion of the U.S. funding ISIS in Syria. Thank you guys for supporting. Please do spread this video far and wide so people can find out the truth about this man. Thank you. Follow, like, subscribe.